Picture this. A man walks into a bank, not to make a deposit, but to demand cash. It sounds like the start of a typical crime story, right? But what happened next transcended typical. Our protagonist, armed with a gun, successfully robbed a Bank of America branch in Santa Ana, California. He got away with a substantial sum, reportedly around $50,000 in crisp $100 bills, neatly tucked into a duffel bag. The adrenaline must have been pumping as he turned to make his escape, the sirens already wailing in the distance, promising a high-stakes chase. He was out the door, thinking he'd pulled off the perfect score, but fate, or perhaps karma, had a different plan for his exit. This unexpected twist would soon escalate a simple robbery into a legal spectacle that few could have predicted. Our robber, fresh from a successful heist, burst out of the bank doors, running for his getaway vehicle. But in his haste, he tripped, not over a stray rock or a curb, but on what he later claimed was a faulty sprinkler head, poorly maintained and protruding from the bank's landscaping. He fell hard, reportedly fracturing his leg in 2 places and tearing a ligament. The duffel bag, still full of cash, skittered across the pavement. This wasn't just a minor scrape. It was a serious injury requiring immediate medical attention, changing the trajectory of his escape entirely. Instead of a clean getaway, he was apprehended moments later, lying injured on the ground, surrounded by the stolen money. This seemingly minor accident would lay the groundwork for a truly audacious legal claim, defying all common sense. Paramedics arrived quickly, not just for his injuries, but because the police were already on the scene. He was treated, then arrested, facing multiple serious charges: armed robbery, assault, and felony evasion. There was no doubt about his guilt in the robbery itself. The evidence was overwhelming, from eyewitness accounts to the recovered cash right beside him. He was eventually convicted and sentenced to prison. Most people would assume that's where the story ends for the robber, confined to a cell, paying his debt to society. But this individual, with an astonishing degree of chutzpah, saw his prison sentence not as the end, but as a new beginning for a different kind of fight. He believed the bank owed him something, and he was determined to get it, even from behind bars. From his prison cell, the convicted bank robber filed a civil lawsuit against Bank of America. His claim was simple, yet audacious. The bank was negligent in maintaining its property. He argued that the protruding sprinkler head was an unsafe condition, and because of it, he suffered severe injuries totaling over $1.5 million in medical bills, pain, and suffering. He believed the bank had a duty of care to all individuals on its property, even those in the act of committing a felony. The bank, of course, was incredulous. How could a criminal sue his victim for injuries sustained during the crime? This was a case that pushed the boundaries of premises liability law, forcing the courts to grapple with a truly unprecedented situation. The question for the legal system became, does a criminal still deserve protection from negligence? The robber's lawsuit hinged on the legal principle of premises liability. In California, property owners have a general duty to maintain their premises in a reasonably safe condition for all entrants, even trespassers in some limited circumstances, to prevent foreseeable harm. The argument was that the bank knew or should have known about the hazardous sprinkler head and failed to fix it, thus breaching its duty. The bank, naturally, countered with arguments of contributory negligence and the concept that a criminal cannot benefit from their own wrongdoing. They argued he was engaged in an illegal act, and any injury he sustained was a direct consequence of his criminal conduct, not the bank's negligence. This clash of legal doctrines set the stage for a fascinating and complex courtroom battle, challenging long-held notions of justice. A common misconception is that if you're committing a crime, you automatically forfeit all legal protections. While it's true that criminals generally can't sue for injuries directly resulting from the crime itself, for instance, if a homeowner defends themselves against a burglar, premises liability can be a nuanced area. The myth is that a property owner owes absolutely no duty to a criminal. However, in most U.S. states, property owners still have a basic duty to avoid willful or wanton injury, or to warn of known, hidden dangers, even to trespassers. The key distinction here is whether the injury was a direct, foreseeable consequence of the criminal act or a separate, unrelated act of negligence by the property owner. This case tested that distinction dramatically, showing just how complex the interplay of criminal activity and civil liability can become. Bank of America's legal team mounted a robust defense. Their primary argument was that the robber's injuries were a direct result of his criminal enterprise. They asserted that he would not have been running in a panicked, reckless manner, potentially tripping, had he not just committed a felony. They also invoked the doctrine of assumption of risk, arguing that by engaging in a dangerous activity like armed robbery, he inherently accepted the risks of injury. Furthermore, they pointed out the sheer audacity of a criminal seeking compensation from his victim. To allow such a lawsuit to proceed, they argued, would set a dangerous precedent, potentially encouraging criminals to seek redress for their own self-inflicted misfortunes. The bank was determined to prevent any ruling that could legitimize such a claim, for obvious reasons. The trial drew considerable media attention, with many legal experts and the public alike questioning the merits of the robber's case. The court had to weigh the bank's duty of care against the plaintiff's criminal actions. Testimony was heard from the robber regarding his injuries and the alleged faulty sprinkler. Bank employees and security personnel described the robbery itself. The core legal debate revolved around causation. Was the injury caused by the bank's negligence, or by the robber's own criminal act? Could the bank reasonably foresee that a robber would trip over a sprinkler head during an escape? These were not easy questions, and the jury faced the unenviable task of interpreting complex legal principles in a truly extraordinary factual scenario. The stakes were high, not just for the parties involved, but for future premises liability cases. After days of deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict, and it was shocking. They ruled in favor of the bank. While the details of their reasoning were complex, the core takeaway was clear. The robber's criminal actions were the proximate cause of his injuries, not the bank's alleged negligence. The jury effectively found that while a property owner has a duty to maintain safe premises, that duty does not extend to protecting individuals from injuries they sustain while actively committing a serious felony. The public, largely, breathed a sigh of relief. This verdict affirmed a common-sense understanding of justice, preventing what many saw as a perverse outcome. But the case didn't end there. An appeal was almost inevitable, given the high-profile nature and the significant amount of money involved. The convicted robber, undeterred by the initial verdict, appealed the decision. His legal team continued to argue that the bank's negligence in maintaining the sprinkler head was an independent factor contributing to his injury, separate from the robbery itself. However, the appellate court upheld the original verdict. They reinforced the principle that the injuries were a direct consequence of the robber's criminal conduct. The court emphasized that allowing such a claim would effectively reward criminal behavior and undermine the fundamental principles of justice. This final ruling solidified the legal precedent that while premises liability is broad, it generally does not protect individuals who suffer injuries directly attributable to their own illegal acts. This landmark case drew a clear line in the sand, establishing a crucial boundary for future claims. So what's the big legal lesson here? This case, often cited in legal textbooks, highlights the limitations of premises liability. While property owners have a duty to maintain safe premises, this duty is not absolute, especially when it comes to individuals engaged in criminal activity. The key takeaway is that the law generally does not allow a person to profit from their own wrongdoing. If your injury is a direct and foreseeable consequence of your own illegal actions, it's highly unlikely you'll succeed in a negligence claim against the property owner. This case serves as a stark reminder that while the legal system aims for fairness, it also upholds a moral imperative against rewarding those who break the law. It's a crucial distinction for understanding the nuances of civil liability in the U.S. legal framework. Now, consider a different scenario. What if the robber had been a legitimate customer, slipped on the same broken sprinkler head, and fractured their leg? In that instance, the bank would almost certainly be found liable for negligence. The duty of care owed to a customer is much higher, and the foreseeability of a legitimate visitor tripping over an unmaintained hazard is clear. The crucial difference lies in the context of the injury. Was the injured party legitimately on the premises, or were they engaged in an illegal act that directly led to their injury? This distinction is paramount in premises liability cases. It's not just about the hazard itself, but who encountered it and under what circumstances. This nuance is what makes legal cases so compelling and sometimes so surprising. This incredible case reminds us that while the U.S. legal system offers avenues for redress, it also holds individuals accountable for their own actions. You generally cannot sue someone for injuries you sustain while committing a crime against them. It's a testament to the common sense that often, though not always, prevails in our courts. If you found this dive into an unbelievable legal, true story fascinating, make sure to hit that subscribe button for more deep dives in the wild and complex world of U.S. law.